leaders are going to be in the thick of it more often than not. And, you know, Jay Shetty was saying, I listened to a podcast recently and he was saying, well, you know, arrogant leaders demand respect and humble leaders inspire respect. So when chips are down, when things are tough, when people are going, God, what are we going to do? When there's someone that steps up and goes, look, I hear you're all hurting. I'm hurting too, but this is the direction we're going to go. And you make decisions and you show them that you're there to support them and you're going to do everything that you can to help them get through as well.
And inspire confidence.
Yeah. And that's been the year for that. That's been a huge year for that this year.
Yeah, this year's the year of the leader.
Absolutely.
I actually said this to one of the team once. I said, I can't tell everybody that you're the leader. Leadership's not given. Leadership's earned. And even if you are in a position of power, and maybe you've been hired for that role, and you're placed in that position, you still need to earn your right to be the leader. Otherwise, no one is going to follow you. Yeah. If you don't have a good track record of leadership and you've led people off a cliff the past 10 years in a row, no one's going to want to be led by you anyway. They're going to choose a different leader. So you need to show that you can lead and you've got a history of it.
It's a curious time for leadership now as well, because you've got leaders from all different generations, and you've got Gen X, millennials, Gen Ys, Gen Zs, and then you've got, you know, more traditional baby boomers that are at the top of a lot of these big businesses. And some of these guys have grown up in a whole different realm, and now they've got millennials going, I want you to be completely transparent with me and tell me all of these things. And you've got this baby boomers going, well, it's just sort of water runs downhill. This is how it should work.
That's interesting too. I've never thought about that.
Actually trying to think across different horizontal branches of generations is a whole nother way. So now we have to be more transparent in our communications. You know, companies like Amazon, some of these companies that are doing really well with the CEOs being very vocal around what they support publicly, that gets them more trust from the public. So you know, millennials, Gen Ys, Gen Zs, they want to see this. They want to see those people that are engaged in a different way, and it's not just the traditional leadership.
Well, it's what are the beliefs and values of the company that I want to support, that I want to buy from, work with.
Exactly, what are the values?
And really, you know, what the company is going to have the values of the leader, because especially if they're the founder and CEO.
Absolutely.
Because the company was just built around, it was in their head and now it's in real life. It's going to represent them.
Yeah, leadership's a fascinating one. I think ultimately you either lead from the back or you lead from the front. Some people feel that if they're just, you know, they don't need to say much, but they lead by example, that can be enough for some people. But then there's people that lead from the back and they make sure they're in amongst it and they're in amongst the crowd that you're leading with.
Especially now. This year, like you said, the year of the leader, which we just crowned it, it's been a difficult year. You have to have a certain amount of agility as a leader, the ability to pivot, and just to regulate not just yourself but also your team.
And there's good room for leaders to be vulnerable with people that they're trying to lead. You know, if you always put on this big, strong facade, then it's not relatable, and you can actually be a less good leader because people are like, oh no, it's unattainable, and bugger him, he doesn't understand my pain. Yeah, the story goes there was, and this is based on a paper, and they looked at the various impacts that anti-wrinkle injectables could have on you outside of the direct impact of muscle relaxation. And it was pretty fascinating. They spoke about how people that might have a tendency to feel down, if they were to remove the frown, so you were to put anti-wrinkle injectables in their frown, that if they weren't able to frown as fully, they couldn't reinforce that emotion of feeling down, feeling angry, feeling negative. And they found that then they wouldn't feel it as much. And they also found that people would start responding to them differently. So because they weren't frowning as much at people, there's this thing called an emotional contagion. So you're sort of mirroring the emotions of the person in front of you. And so because they didn't have this sort of depressed look or this angry look or this down look, people started referring to them as though they were happier.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
And it's also so interesting because what you do, what your body does reinforce how your brain feels. Whether that be if you're always walking around sad, well, your brain's going to think you're sad. Yeah, if you're sitting on the couch all day, your brain's going to feel lazy.
Absolutely,
you know?
It's phenomenal. So there's this feedback loop. So you have something called efferent nerves that come from your face, from your skin, and they feed back to your brain to reinforce the emotion. So if you're feeling upset and you're frowning and you're feeling down, you will reinforce that emotion. And the same is true as well with smiling. So this is when, say, for instance, if someone comes into the clinic and they do have a history of low mood, then I will tend to not treat their crow's feet, which is around the eyes, as fully, because I want them to still be perceived as someone who's really happy, who can do a full smile. And I'll voice that to them. So you're looking at the person as a whole, not just the face.
So if someone is a happy person, you can see they're a patient of yours, they've come in, they're really smiley, they're really happy. You don't want to diminish their smile at all. You're going to say that to them.
So you just do a little bit of so you try and reduce the wrinkles, but try not to reduce the expression too much. There was a study in the States, which is pretty fascinating. So that's a Duchenne smile, is when you fully engage the cheeks. And they looked in the yearbooks and they did this sort of follow-up on everyone from the yearbooks, and they found those people that had this sort of disingenuous smile, that just smiled with their teeth and didn't fully engage their cheeks, did statistically worse in their marriages than those that had the full Duchenne smile.
No way.
So I do not want to commit someone to a bad marriage by cutting off their
smiles, screwing up their smile,
by too much anti-wrinkle.
Yeah, and it's just crazy how your body and what you do affects it. Like, I was watching this Tony Robbins thing once, and he was saying something similar. Like, I was talking about depressed people or whatever it was, but he was saying, get up, force yourself to smile, take action. You know, action has a direct, like, what you call it, a feedback loop to your brain, which then triggers the next, a more positive, or at least a different outcome.
Absolutely. Daniel, my brother at the time, said, you should put your hand up for everything. If you want to become a rounded person, put your hand up for every single thing, even if seems a bit strange. So I was like, in the first 15, I was in the choir, I was doing debating, I was doing all this, very avant-garde stuff. But I remember when I was 11, after this angry patch, there was a chapel, and they're like, okay, so everyone put your hands up as a male. It's the first time that a male is going to be sent to the other side of the world to go to a school. Put your hand up if you want to go. And I was like, well, I'm not going to get picked, so I'll put my hand up. And then we went through interview processes, and then my mum's like, hey, you're going to Scotland next year, eh? You got that scholarship. I was like, you're kidding. So I was 11 years of age, packing my bags to go to Scotland. And I mean, my dad took me over and dropped me at the school gates, and I've never cried so hard. I was like, oh my God, I'm on the other side of the world.
And you were how old?
I was like just turned 12.
That's young.
So I'd just gone from like parents breaking up, boarding school, 1 year later, Scotland. And it was just like, I don't know, I think maybe from a young age I've managed to manufacture that switch flip in your head. And I was like, okay. And I think this is where there's a lot of credit to being exposed to difficult situations and being able to self-regulate and being able to pick yourself up and tell yourself it's going to be okay. So I remember sitting in between the arch of this boarding house, hoping kids weren't seeing me crying, but I was just like, crying into your jersey, and I was just crying away. And I was like, all right, you can cry for as many months as you want. You probably won't run out of tears. You can keep crying, or you can just step up and get something out of this and make something from this and go home with some great stories. What's it going to be? And the minute you make that decision and you make your mind behind it, you roll on and you walk forward.
And I think adversity and pain, they're the opportunity for you to get stronger and better, Absolutely. For you to improve and to take action. Because if you don't have adversity, if you don't push yourself, for example, you even just putting up your hand to go to Scotland, right? You pushed yourself. You said, oh, fuck it, I'm going to give it a shot. And then you did it.
Now the World Health Organization has basically given a statistic that the biggest contributor to disability worldwide is depression. And, you read a number of books that basically talk about it. Well, it's not the people that are under the poverty line necessarily. It's, yes, some, but it's not the people that are disheveled. It's not the people that don't have beautiful opportunities. It's actually 30-year of age men upwards living in like quite affluent suburbs because they haven't had the opportunity to self-soothe. They haven't had the opportunity to have to pick themselves up. And every micro opportunity of grief you get, so if you lose your job, if you lose a girlfriend, if you lose a cat, every opportunity that you have to sort of feel this bit of grief, feel this bit of loss, feel this pain, feel this suffering, but turn around and use your own skills and your tools to get yourself back up on your feet and keep walking forward, that builds you up for the bigger traumas in life. So when those happen, you're not completely knocked out. You're like, all right, this is bigger, it's magnified, but I've been in these parts before, I've been in these waters before, and I've got the skills to get through, and I'm going to get through.
And as a man, you can be a good leader.
Absolutely. But I think it's important as well to allow yourself to feel not okay. Obviously we went through the Are You Okay month recently, and it's like, well, sometimes I think big, strong, burly men are like afraid to show that vulnerability and afraid to say, you know what, actually right now I am suffering, but it's all good. It's okay to suffer. And you don't have to suffer in silence, because what we do typically, because society doesn't, we've got great movements like Are You Okay and what have you, but society doesn't glorify negative, painful emotions. We want to be happy. We want to be positive. We want to have ecstasy in our lives, and we want to be ecstatic. But there should be
give
more,
away participation medals.
There should be more endorsement to actually, it's okay to feel shit sometimes. It's okay to be suffering on the inside. That's okay, and you're gonna get through it. The sun will come up tomorrow. There's gonna be someone to support you. My granddad's words were some of the best. He said, if things ever get so low, stick around. It can only get better.